Summer.
Hi.
My name is Lisa.
Hi.
And I feel like we're both introverts, and I was just wondering, I know you started off, I think, as a dancer, and I'm wondering just like, how has your journey been since you've become an actress, and has it been, you know, kind of difficult to navigate?
It has been, in a way. I think I have found the industry to be surprisingly welcoming. You know, I look back at my 19-year-old self and how unprepared I was to move to a new city and just start a new career with no experience. And I think I ended up being really lucky, and in part I think it's just because I knew it's what I was supposed to do at that time of my life. But when I was a little girl, I just had this feeling that I was going to be an actress. I didn't have any outlet for it. I was homeschooled, and I was a very serious ballet dancer from the time I was 5. So I took classes all day, and I even taught dance since I was like, I don't know, 12. But I just had this feeling I was going to end up being an actress. And when I was 16, my mom enrolled me in a class that was for people who had a fear of speaking in public. And I was the only kid in the class. It was all adults. And it was in an old jazzercise building. It was just me and all these other, you know, other shy people in just a carpeted room. And it wasn't an acting class, but it was exercising being able to just stand up and be yourself and try to be authentic. And we did a lot of really powerful exercises, and that really helped me. And there was a playwright in the class, and he wrote a play, and he had a role that he thought I should play, and I was so thrilled. I was scared, but I was really excited, and so I was still dancing full time, and I was studying the play, and I had the play scattered out on the ground, all the pages, and the phone rang, and I scooped it up, and I ran to catch the phone, and I jumped over this camel saddle in our living room, and I broke my toe.
Are we just going to gloss right over that?
I was going to skip saying that part, but I couldn't think of a replacement, so anyway, still have that. And I broke my toe, so then I couldn't, I actually danced on, I kept dancing on it broken for a long time, but then that ends up totally messing you up. So, but I didn't want any of the other girls to get my parts, so I kept dancing on it, and then eventually I had to stop. And it was during that time that my whole life changed, because I knew that I couldn't wear my pointe shoes anymore, but I didn't really know what to do with my life. And I was one of those kids that I didn't have a plan B. I wasn't planning to go to college, because at the time I thought, well, if I go to college, my dance career will, you know, pass me by. I have to go straight into a bigger company, and I had this whole plan. And so why am I telling you this story? How did I get here? Oh, you asked me about being shy. Yes. So anyway, I had a crush on this guy. He didn't even like, you know, he wasn't interested in me. He was a dancer too. He was dancing in LA, and he told me, you should come out and do like we have a lot of musical theater out here, and you can start doing some auditions. And so I got out there, and the day after I got out there, he booked a show on Broadway and left, and I didn't know anybody. So here I am, no experience except this speaking in public class in LA, and I enrolled myself in a class, and it was just exhilarating. And what I loved about it is that I realized that with acting, I could approach the role physically first, and then find my voice. And little by little, it all started to come together. And it was perfect that I was cast in Angel first, where I got to play a ballerina. And then when I was cast as River, it all worked in my favor, because she was so uncomfortable and awkward and unable to express herself. And she was such a physical character that she was able to really show how she was feeling, what she was thinking through her movements. So it all just kind of, I feel, looking back, it was just meant to be. And now, after being in this industry for 15 years, the last job I did was actually just my voice. I did an audio series. It was 10 episodes, and when I signed on to do it, I didn't realize, I thought they would just want me to read the story, but no, I played every character. I played the men, I played the women, I did accents, I did animals, I did old people, I did young people, I did gargoyles, and I was like, wow, Summer, you've come a long way, you know? It was pretty funny. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
You look wonderful.
Oh, thank you. My name's Amber, and I just wanted to know, did you prefer portraying River in Firefly or in the movie Serenity? Which role did you prefer?
Well, the lazy part of me is going to say that I preferred the series because I got to, you know, take naps and lay around in the infirmary, and then when Joss told me about the script for Serenity, I was completely shocked that he was going to trust me with that much of the story. But the looking back at the person that it pushed me to be, I'm so grateful that he gave me the time to learn how to do those fights myself, because it didn't just push me physically, it pushed me emotionally and mentally. I've done a lot of stunts now over the years, and I've been on all the different sets, and I know that most of the time you don't get the time to learn how to do it. And I started out really slow and really humbly, and worked for months to get to do those fights. And it really just was a life lesson to me that start slow, baby steps, put in your time, put your head down, but don't give up. And I'm really grateful for it now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What was it like working on Nights of Badass?
It was like summer camp for actors. It was surreal. I remember when I got the script, and it's a funny little detail, but the character cussed a lot, and I was like, I can't do this. I've only cussed in Chinese. I don't know if I can pull this off. And I loved the story, and I called Joss. You know, in those days, I was really trying to make smart choices and choose roles that you know would be right for me. So I called Joss and I told him who else was going to be in it, and he was like, "You got to do it." And so we got there, and it's the only movie I've ever done that was completely shot at night, which was trippy. And we were staying in this old historic hotel, and it felt like we were the only people in the world, because we were shooting in Spokane, which is a beautiful little city in Washington State, and it's small, and it's just surrounded and immersed in nature. And I remember Margarita and I bought bicycles on eBay, and we would ride our bicycles through the city at night when no one else was awake. And it felt very creative, and it felt so alive and happy to be there. And obviously we just laughed so much. I am so grateful that I got to work with that group of actors.
Thanks.
But LARPing is dangerous, guys. Be prepared. I was actually way more scared to LARP than I was to do my stunts with the stunt actors, because the LARPing is diabolical.
Hello. Hey, my name's Brad. I got to meet you yesterday. It was a pleasure. My question goes on about the stunts. Was everything stunt trained, or did you learn martial arts or anything? Because I know I wouldn't want to mess with you.
Well, when Joss decided that he wanted River to be a, like a human weapon, he picked the greatest stunt coordinator in the business, Chad Stahelski, and I had my first meeting with him. I went to the gym with Joss and the two other producers from Serenity, and I felt like it was my first day at ballet class again, because he just wanted to kind of see what I could do. He knew I was a dancer, but he was like, what am I going to do with this girl? So I did some punches and some kicks, and I was like, please like me. And Joss was like, I want this to look real. I want this, I don't want to just set up each stunt for the camera so that it looks like she's doing it. I want her doing it from start to finish. I want to be able to set the camera up and have her do the whole fight as if it was a dance. And so then Chad was like, and he created a style that would work for a ballet dancer like me, and would also look effective and real. Like I could take out a room of burly dudes in space. And so he said that the styles were a combination of wushu, kickboxing, and kung fu. And every day I would come and I would start my day warming up. I would do my punching section, I would do my kicking section, I would do my across the floors, I would do my swords, and then we would move into choreography. But I should say before this though, they started me off in a wushu class, which was out in the middle of, it was an hour drive outside of LA, inland, to a town called Alhambra. And it was out in the middle of a park, under a pavilion. And I always tell this story, like I can't believe it's real. I showed up there the first day, and it was me and 12-year-old Asian assassin boys who were not pleased to see me. And I just stayed in the back for like months and tried not to kick anybody. Humbling, that's what I was saying, humbling beginnings. You know, just out in concrete with nothing, and those guys were just hardcore. And I thought, you know, I was coming to the table with some training. You know, I was a serious ballerina, but it's all different types of strength. You know, I had to learn how to crouch low and how to train my fast twitch muscles, because there's a lot of striking and pulling back and sweeping and just being down low, and I was like Gumby. I couldn't, trying to swing that axe fast enough, and the sword, I worked for months to be fast enough to do the fights from start to finish. And another funny thing I'll tell y'all is that, if any of you have seen the behind the scenes from Serenity of the stunt practice, I did my sword fight over and over and over again until I was really, really comfortable. And finally, we didn't shoot the fights for Serenity until the very end of the movie, which was a 3-month shoot. So I had a long time to build up, you know, the anticipation and the adrenaline. You know, I was really nervous to do my fights in front of everybody. So then we get there on the day, and I see all my stunt guys, and they're in their Reaver costumes, and I don't know who's who anymore. So I couldn't tell who to punch and who to kick. So then we finally devised this system where the guys would just call out their name, and I would know who to punch and who to kick. They were like, Danny, over here, Mike, Sam. And it worked beautifully. And I got to actually make contact because, as I said earlier, Joss set up the camera, and you couldn't miss, or you would show on you know, from every angle. So I actually had to learn how to make contact without really, you know, hurting them. They were really tough guys.
Did you hurt anybody?
I did. One guy. Yeah, I did. It was, but I think it was just a very, very light concussion.
Oh, just
never
small.
complained.
Thank you. Like I said, I wouldn't want to mess with you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Summer. My name's Tom. Not to correct a guest, but we say Louisville, not Louisville.
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 Louisville. There you go.
Louisville.
Just don't say Louisville.
No. No.
Louisville.
There you go.
Thank you,
Secondly,
thanks.
Campbell saddles are a real thing. They are truly a decor item.
Yes.
We had one in our
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't break your toe over one.
I
Don't
did
try
not.
to jump over them when you can't see where you're going.
So a couple of people have already asked about your training. That was going to be my question. So instead, you said something a moment ago about cursing in Chinese. So did you actually learn Chinese curse words or just how to pronounce the things that they wanted you to say?
Well, someone else asked me that this weekend, and I was scared that he was going to ask me to repeat it. We learned, we took on that Mandarin from every angle, okay? We practiced it, we would record it, we had 2 coaches, we would read it out as it sounded, and I don't think any of us even got one word right the whole time. I've heard from people who actually know what they're doing. We failed miserably. But it was nice to ease my way into, cussing on screen when my dad couldn't understand what I was saying.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other than the sci-fi stuff that you've been in, is there any sci-fi films, shows, or novels that you're really fond of, and why?
Oh, yes. So much. My mom read science fiction to us, to my sisters and I, when we were growing up, so it has been very influential for me. My favorites when I was a kid were obviously C.S. Lewis and Madeline L'Engle. I also love all the Tolkien stories, and my favorite show growing up was Star Trek: The Next Generation.
You!
So, because that was the show, I would always sneak into my parents' room and say I couldn't sleep and ask them if I could turn on their TV and watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. So I'll never forget my first time meeting that cast was at DragonCon, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, and I completely fell to pieces. I don't know what I said, I couldn't form a sentence, but I just couldn't believe I actually saw them in real life. And now it's just such a treat to see them over the years and have them met my children and talk to them, ask their advice, and it's just pretty special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first off, I'm a huge fan of the TV show Alphas. I loved you on that, and also as Greta and Chuck and Knights of Badassdom. My question is, since a lot of times the coworkers in our job make it a lot better, what project that you've been on have you enjoyed the most from your character, and what have you enjoyed working with people on the most?
Thank you, that's such a good question. Obviously, Firefly was like my family. I am still really close to all of those guys and forever grateful for them creating such a safe place for me to learn how to be an actor and to support me over the years. We're still really, really close. So I loved the role, and I loved being on set. I actually would even come in. This was when I was 19, and I remember I would come in on days and not want to go home. And the script supervisor, Jane, was like a surrogate mom to me, and she would say, "Honey, don't you want to go home? Don't you have some laundry to do or something?" And I was like, "No, I don't have anything to do. It's just a quiet apartment, so I'm just going to stay here." And I just loved it. It felt so magical that I was, that this dream I had come true, and that I really belonged there. So that one is really special. I loved my time on Sarah Connor. I did not want that to end. I loved Thomas, loved Lena, loved the whole supporting cast, had a great time on that. Alphas was wonderful. That whole cast, I was sad to have to leave that show. I loved playing a Christmas elf. That was, I wanted that job to be for real. And what else? Knights of Badassdom was fun. I've got to say though, I was ready to see daylight again. That one I couldn't have lasted forever. And I would say it's harder to be a guest. It's always harder to be a guest because you feel like you're coming to a new school, and everybody has their place where they sit, and they have their friends, and they have their routine, and it can be more difficult to break in, and acting can be very vulnerable, so sometimes it's harder to take chances when you don't feel like it's your house. So, but one thing I always remember about Nathan is that he was so, he set such a positive tone for all of us, and every time we would have a new guest star, he would make sure to greet them in the morning and say, hey, welcome, we're so happy that you're here, this is that, make them feel like we really wanted them there and like we needed them. And of course we did. You always do. You need those characters to come in and help push the story forward. So I'm grateful that I got to see the way that he set the tone for us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Greg.
Hi, Greg.
I'm an introvert too. But I am curious about something. I haven't seen everything you've been in, but a lot of the shows that you've been in, you play a lot of strange and quirky characters. So I'm just curious if you seek those out or people seek you out to play some of these kind of unusual people.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think in the beginning, when you first come to Los Angeles and you're going on auditions and you're trying to find your sort of like your break-in, it's very, you want to try to be whatever it is that they want. And I think it can be a little bit disorienting and at times lead you astray, because whenever people ask me, do you have any advice about acting, I still feel like I don't have, like I'm not qualified, because it's not like I went to Juilliard or anything. But I did get to be an actor, and I am an actor. That's what I put on my, when they ask you what your occupation is. So my advice would be, even though you're trying to portray someone else, you have to bring truth to it. And the only way that you can bring truth to it is by finding that in yourself and letting that out, and having the courage and somehow finding the safety to do that. So when I first started acting, I think I struggled finding a role where my life experience and who I was and my truth would fit for a role. And when I met Joss, it just kind of seemed like the perfect home for me. And in particular with the role of River, it was so therapeutic for me to be playing a character who just fit so well with where I was in my life at that time. I was very vulnerable. I was very unpredictable. I mean, I would be in acting class sometimes and my scene partner would be like, are you okay? Because things were just coming out, and I was scared and I was excited, and I would get embarrassed, and then I would be thrilled. It was thrilling, and River was just that perfect role for me, and I was surrounded by people who gave me a safe place to make mistakes and try things, and then I think there was truth in it, and then from there people sort of saw that I could do that, and then I was offered more opportunities to play these sort of unusual characters, and now I seek them out, because it was playing Cameron, for instance. In the beginning, when I heard that they were doing a Terminator series, I tried to skip the audition because I made up my mind that it wouldn't be right for me. And then when I started to read the script and I talked to the creator of the show, I realized, she is another quirky character. She has a deadly side. She's a bodyguard who will kill, but she's also very vulnerable and innocent, and she's funny because she makes mistakes. So I still look for that. I still look for those quirky characters, and I think there are more and more opportunities for unusual characters. I particularly love doing science fiction because of that, because there's really nothing standard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi there, my name's Bobby. I started watching Firefly the wrong way, and I started with Serenity and worked my way back. My question is, for a show like that, that by the time Serenity came out, it already kind of reached kind of a cult sci-fi status, was there any props, any mementos or trinkets from that show that while you were doing it, you were like, oh, I have to take that with me? Or any show since then that you were like, there was a prop or something that meant something to you for a specific
Are you a
event?
thief?
No, I was such a rule follower that they told us we couldn't take anything, and I believed them. And then I find out that Nathan has like a closet full of stuff. But no, I didn't take anything. And I will tell you, most of the costumes, after you sat in them for hours and hours and hours, you're like, goodbye, old friend. May I never meet you again. So especially that aqua onesie that Joss made me wear with the rubber bib at the beginning of Serenity, I was like, never again. Not flattering.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I read that you were once invited to a convention in New Zealand. So I was wondering, is there any countries that you'd like to visit but you haven't been to yet?
Oh, all the countries, all the countries. I love traveling. It's one of the best parts of our job. I got my passport to do a convention. I had never been overseas. I've never probably ever been anywhere. I drove to California, and that was it. And so getting to go to England, and then spreading out from there, getting to go to Germany, and then getting to go to Australia and New Zealand. Russia, I've been to Russia. I would love to, I would like to see more of Asia, for sure.
Yes.
For sure, and I couldn't even choose where, just anywhere, I'll go anywhere. South America, I'm going back to Europe next year. I try to go at least once a year, and just places like this, Louisville. It's one of the greatest blessings, especially of being a genre actor, is getting to go new places and thank people in person for supporting your career. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol.
Hi,
I'm kind
Carol.
of like the other guy in that I started with Serenity and then got hooked, and I'm like, what happened to this series? Oh my gosh, I know. But when my husband loved your episode of Big Bang Theory on the train, and I wanted to see if you had any stories from that appearance.
Well, it was, we were shooting on the same lot as Big Bang Theory. We were shooting Terminator at that time, and so they just invited me to come over and do an episode. And I remember Josh Friedman, who was the creator of Terminator, walked me over, and again, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm in my 20s, but I feel like it's my first day of kindergarten, and I don't want to mess up because we had a table read. And this table read was unlike anything I'd ever seen, because I had only done drama. And when I got to the table read, it was a huge production. They had just a big round setup of tables, and they all took it very seriously, taking notes, because comedy is so precisely calibrated. And I was really nervous, and I told them that I was nervous that my character came off a little bit mean, you know, because I was playing myself. I was like, I just don't know if this is, does Summer Glau do this? I don't know. And they were like, we need you to be funny. I was like, okay. So my only goal here is just that I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to ruin a take because I'm a professional, and these guys would never break, you know. And I want to show them that even though I'm not, you know, I'm not a comedy actor, that I won't laugh. But then he started doing the pumpernickel thing, and I totally did giggle, and I ruined take after take. But I was lucky because we were shooting inside the train car, so we didn't have anybody watching, and so only they know how unprofessional I was.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What was it like acting in season 2 of Arrow, and what's your favorite episode?
Oh man. Well, that role took me a little while to get used to. I was just so surprised that they wanted me to play a, you know, more sophisticated businesswoman, because I thought if they asked me to be on the show, it's because they want me to, you know, like throw down. And so I got there, and there were heels and these elegant dresses and jewelry, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna, okay, where am I gonna find this? And then I started to build up momentum, and I loved it, and I really started to get into it. And then they finally told me that they were gonna have an alter ego, and she was gonna turn into Ravager, and I was like, yes! But then I tried on the costume, and it was, I think everybody on that show has to wear the pleather, which does not breathe, and in order to make it tight enough, the pants have suspenders. So my husband at the time, I would put the pants on, and then he would shimmy me into them until I was all the way in, and then put the suspenders on, and then I would put on the mask, I guess you would call it, sort of like a mask hat contraption, and I could barely see. I was like, I've got to channel my badass here. I can't let him see. Like, I can barely move. So I had so much respect for those guys that they had to wear these costumes for hours and hours, and, you know, learn how to be agile in them. And watching Steven with his with the way that he learned how to shoot, the way that they did the special effects for the arrows was really cool to watch, and I loved getting to do that whole side as opposed to like getting out of the boardroom. So I think my favorite episode is the reveal that Isabella's Ravager. And getting to work with Manu, what a wonderful actor he is. Thank you.
Hello. I was really close with my sister growing up, and my family loved watching Firefly. So your performance with Sean, especially the episode Safe, was really close to my heart growing up. So thank you for that. Was there an episode or a scene from Firefly that's really close to your heart?
Well, many scenes. One of my ultimate scenes is seeing some objects in space, the dream sequence, where River's in the cargo bay, and she's having that dream where there's fall leaves all over, and she sees the branch. I remember feeling like it was a dream for me. That was the only episode where I was called into work every day, and it was the episode that Joss directed. And I felt so special and so blessed that was my life. So that one stands out. And I also love any scene where we were all sitting around the dining room table, because we would just laugh and laugh and laugh and entertain each other. Because any scene where you have that many actors, it takes all day because you have to get coverage of each actor. And on other shows, I have not enjoyed them as much necessarily, but on Firefly, we would just entertain each other. And so those are really dear, especially because Ron was kind of our ringleader. On days like that, would just get us laughing with his contagious laughter. And so I would say those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric. And
Hey.
I was wondering, were there any outtakes or any mess-ups while you were on the Arrow on any fight scenes that you remember?
No, I don't remember any. That was a pretty well-oiled machine. And they work very fast because it is TV and because that show is so action-packed. I don't remember any sort of funny business going on. It was pretty tight.
Do you enjoy watching documentaries, and if so, what documentaries do you like to watch or have watched recently?
I watch Monty Don's Gardens of France and Gardens of Italy and any other gardens that he visits. I love those, and I love Chef's Table. I watch those. I like things that are relaxing, uplifting. Thank you.
So, you were saying something about like, does summer do this? So what is it that you would really like to do in the future? Is there something like writing or poetry or some other type of artistic expression you would be interested in doing?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I feel that I'm moving into a new phase of my life because I'm a parent now. And I have noticed that since I had I have 2 little girls. Since I've had my 2 little ones, I've started to be inspired in new avenues and new directions, and I'm not ready to choose one thing yet. I have a few different things that I'm working on. I moved to the country in Texas, and I have more time to just think and be creative, and I have a few things that I'm thinking about trying. But thank you so much for asking that question, because when my girls are little, I'm spending the time being a stay-at-home mom, and it has been a little bit uncomfortable for me because I've always worked since I was a little girl. From the time I was 12, I was in a ballet company, and I was always so career focused. And then when I had my first little girl, Mila Jo, I tried to go back to work right away. I thought, no, I'm going to show everybody that this is not going to affect anything. And then I realized, oh, God, it does affect. It really does change just the way I structure my life, and it changed my creativity. And for a while there, it was hard for me to dive into my characters the way that I had before, because you have to kind of, for me at least, I really was able to just lose myself. And so being a parent, I do feel I'm more drawn to just being present with them, but it has opened up these new creative sides of myself. So I would like to write. I would like to pursue some other kind of creative outlets, possibly online, possibly reaching out in with a blog or something where I could be, where I can interact with other people like myself. And so stay posted. I'm getting to it.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of similar to what she was asking, but as far as a role that maybe you would like to have that you haven't had a chance to do, is there any kind of roles that you haven't had a chance to play that you would like to?
I really am. I'm drawn more to comedy now. I don't know if that's, just like wanting to lighten up, wanting to make other people laugh, or wanting to find the humor in things. I would love to do something. Maybe not. That's just maybe not a sitcom or even just a comedy, but I would like to do maybe a drama that is more focused on humor. I would really love to see if I could find my way into something like that. But I'm open to anything. It's more of just like a feeling when you read a script. If it hits you, if I feel like I could bring something to it, like if it's meant for me. So it might surprise me. It always has. I thought when I came to LA, I wanted to do period films, and I ended up doing science fiction. So it's been a wild ride, and you gotta just be open to the possibilities. You never know.
Thank you.
There's less concussions in comedy, I believe.
Probably.
Oh, hello there.
Hi guys, hi.
My name's Conlon.
Hi. Welcome. How are you?
Good. Now that you're a mom, do you want to do Disney?
Oh, good idea. Well, have you seen Frozen 2 yet? We're seeing it this weekend. Good luck to you, Mama. I hope we can get in there and make it happen. You know what? I would love to. That's a great idea. Thank you so much for inspiring me. I would love to. I love doing voices now. For a long time I was too shy, but I worked my way into it, and I get a lot of practice with my 2 girls, although I only get to play very minor characters. Very supporting.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of people who said that they pick up on Disney films because they're kids, so that way their kids can actually watch them or hear them, and that their kids will actually like them better.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. All right, so we just have a couple more questions here, and then we're going to wrap up. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Hi, Summer. Since no one has brought it up, I enjoyed the 2 episodes you did in the Wu Assassins. I was wondering if you could explain the storyline and your character to those who haven't watched it yet.
Oh man, I will not explain the plot because it's one of those shows where I tell people you just gotta watch it.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's crazy good. The martial artists in this show are the best I've ever seen, and that's no lie. Like the quality of the martial arts is off the charts. I couldn't believe it when I started working with these guys. How fast they are, how precise they are, how clean they are. I came in for a few episodes. I've worked with the creator of that show on several other shows, and he had a role that he thought would be right for me, and I had a great time. I got to play a bit of a villain again and get back into my martial arts. And, I had a wonderful time. I highly recommend the show. I watched the whole thing from start to finish, and just couldn't look away. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm very excited to see what happens with the show next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If any of the petitions actually take hold and maybe Netflix or something would pick back up, Firefly, would you be willing to do that again? And do you think the others would come together for it as well?
Oh, I don't think any of us would say no. I think we would all love to be together again. I always think of Firefly though as an underdog story about an underdog story, and I think that we all have such an attachment to it, and it means something. And it was such a unique story, and such a unique chemistry between the characters that I just don't know about going back and trying to make it the same. I think it would have to be told in some new way, or maybe a new form, or maybe an animated version, or something like that. I always say I don't know. But if they were there and they wanted me back again, of course I would be running. I would not be able to resist.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, GalaxyCon, for hanging out with us. But don't leave quite just yet. If you guys want to gather up to the front of the stage, we're going to take a big group photo.